questions that you may have. So with that, we've got friends from Kennedy Elementary School in Wellington, and they're joining us today. And so I'm going to unmute them. If you would do a little sound check and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dina Smith here at Kennedy, as you said, and I'm a second grade teacher and part of the redesign and building leadership team.
And I'm Kathy Ford. I'm the title teacher, and I'm a member of both teams as well.
And our principal, Stephanie Smith, is on an airplane on her way to Arizona today, so we're here instead.
Great. Well, it's always great to hear from teachers on the redesign team for sure. And since your principal's not on, you can pretty much say anything you want to. So, yeah, it is being recorded. That is true. So to start us off, just give us, your thoughts on what it's been like to be on this redesign team. What did you think at the beginning of this crazy school year, and where are you at now?
I think that we didn't really know exactly what we were getting into, which can be scary and the unknown. But as we've gone through the process, I think that we've kind of got a clearer picture of that, and we're pretty excited about the things that we're putting in place for next year. And I know that our teachers were a little nervous too at the beginning of, what's this going to look like? What's the changes going to be? What is this going to mean to my class, to my students? But as we've done research and as we've visited other schools, we're really excited about the things that we get to put into place and to try out. And we feel like we're moving in a positive direction.
So yeah, tell us about some of those things. What did you research? What have you piloted? And what have you decided?
Well, I think one of the main things that we are excited about starting next year and that we just found out last week about is the Summit Learning Platform. We visited several schools in Oklahoma that uses that platform for their older grades, 4th, 5th. And we went through the application process, which was very lengthy and a lot of legwork for that, but we got that all turned in, and we found out last week that we have been accepted to that. So we're super excited about that. Our 4th and 5th grade will be implementing that in the fall, and the 4 teachers that will be teaching that, in addition to our administrator, will be going to training this summer to get that all up and running. And I know that they also are excited that the training will be close to home, because there was a component of that possibility of being in California or something, but it is going to be here in Kansas from what we understand. So they're excited about that. We've done lots of pilots for different things, mostly some technology kind of resources. We piloted Galaxy Education, which is both a reading and math platform for all grades, but we were primarily looking for our kindergarten and 3rd grade, since we have the Summit Learning for the older grades, 4th and 5th. We've also piloted Dreambox, which is a math platform that goes nicely with our Engage New York math curriculum. And some other things we've piloted, Reflex Math, which is another technology component. It's kind of a fact fluency program, and then we've also got Clever, which is a really slick thing that we've implemented this year, and our teachers and students have enjoyed that. And it's a way to log onto the computer for the students with a QRL code that we just put on up and a little badge, and it automatically takes them right to their screen, and they can click on all of the different options that we have and websites and things, and it's really slick and easy for the younger kids especially, so they don't have to spend so much time logging in, and they get more time to engage in the different components that we have. So currently we are working on, we will be using Dreambox next year. That's definitely been decided, and we're working on getting the funding for that. We also will be using, we haven't decided, I guess the Galaxy education platform didn't really meet the needs, or we didn't see the gains that we were hoping to see. So we are going to try to pilot these last couple weeks Education City, which we have had in the past. We know that there's been some updates to that, and our teachers in the past that have used it have enjoyed that and thought that that was a good program. So we're going to kind of revisit that and see if that would be something that would fit our needs better for the fall. And then the Reflex we also are going to continue with in the fall too.
And through our research, we we're researching kindergarten readiness and preschools and kind of the pre-K component. And, you know, as we always know, that is a very important part in our kind of our FastBridge scores this fall kind of showed that for kindergarten, that, you know, there is kind of a disconnect with preschools and our kindergarten. So we do have a kindergarten, a preschool housed here, but it is not through our school district, it's through Futures. And so our hope was to get a preschool, you know, through USD 353, that we could, you know, select the curriculum we wanted and then better prepare them for kindergarten. But that's looking like that's going to be more like year 2 or 3.
So what changes are you making to address social emotional learning?
We have adopted the CHAMPS program here, which we are using for kind of classroom management, and then had a lot of training on that. We also have been going to the foundations training, which we are implementing in kind of our common areas, lunchroom, playground, hallways, those kinds of things. We are using Second Step currently for social emotional curriculum. We have mixed reviews and data on that. So that's one of the things that we still are kind of researching and looking at. We've got some different things that our administrator's been looking into, and so we're still unsure of that for sure, or for the fall.
We recently saw a Randy Sprick webinar and on behavior plans, and he had a lot of great checklists and easy things that you can data you can keep track of during the day, and then meet with your behavior team to make decisions what's best for your students who, you know, need those behavior plans. So that was kind of exciting to get a lot of different choices.
Oh, and don't you have a therapy dog?
Yes, yes.
Tell us about the therapy dog.
We have a new therapy dog. His name is Kennedy, and he's a cute little guy. The students really have enjoyed having him around, and we have several students in particular that have utilized him at a therapy type of session, and he's also been used quite frequently, particularly with students in my classroom, as a reward that when we have good behaviors, then they are able to, you know, go spend some time with Kennedy, and that's been a positive reward system for several students in our school.
And I see Janet Daoud is showing us a picture of Kennedy, who is what, a Yorkie poodle mix or something, little tiny. And the principal carries him
Yes.
in a little bag everywhere she goes.
He has let it walk lately.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it has gotten out of the pouch.
Yes.
All right. So what would you say, if you were talking to other teachers on redesign teams, what encouragement would you give to them as they're also going through this redesign process?
I would say that, you know, it may be challenging and somewhat unnerving to start, but that the end process and the things that you will get to put into place and the way that you'll see your school develop and look is well worth it. And I think that if you have a passion for your school, if you are committed to your students and you want what's best for them, then this is definitely the process that you need to take.
And know that it's going to be change. So sometimes change is hard, and patience and, you know, ups and downs. But in the long run, I think when you see the long range vision, you're in.
And there's been a lot of support from Tammy and the State Department to, you know, help us research and find places to visit and find curriculum and different resources. And so that's been, you know, very helpful.
So tell us a little bit about some of the places you did visit and what your takeaways were.
Well, we first went to visit 2 places in Oklahoma. We went to Oklahoma City and saw a school that was similar to ours. So that was interesting to see. They were kind of newer to the redesign type formula. Then we went to a school in Tulsa and got to spend quite a bit of time there and interact with the students. And they were using both of those schools were using the Summit Learning. And one thing our team took away from that, especially the one in Tulsa, was just, you know, the kids would come up and they'd show you their screen and just their verbal skills and how articulate they were in describing what they were doing, and how they, my student that talked to me had just recently done well enough on a math test, so now she could be a mentor or a go-to student, and she was really excited about that other students could go to and see her. We also went to Apache, which neither one of us was able to go to, so but I know they got a lot of great ideas as far as the mindful morning and behaviors. They had ambassadors. The students were ambassadors that were looking to implement next year. And then I'll let Dina talk about Epic.
And then we also visited Epic Elementary, which is just a, you know, all around great place to visit and close by. So it was nice for us to get to do that. We did have to reschedule. We went to visit once, and unfortunately there was some weather and they had a snow day. So but we were able to go back again. And what we took away from that is, you know, they had a real curriculum that worked around projects, and they did a lot of work on taking the standards and implementing those into projects. And we came away from that with some great ideas about how we can do that. And we're excited about the Buck Institute coming to Wichita at the end of May. And all of our kindergarten, first, second, and third grade teachers will be attending 3 days of training through the Buck Institute to get some more information on how we can develop projects and kind of do some things that we saw at Epic. And the other thing about Epic is they were very willing to share with us and kind of help us through this process and give us, you know, kind of some go-to hints and things that we can do along the way to kind of avoid some of the bumps that they had experienced.
Yeah, one of the things that we're building for next year is a way to bring in the Buck Institute on a bigger scale for more teachers, because that is a huge, huge need. We're building in, you know, more places to visit besides Epic and Oklahoma. There are some places we're exploring in Colorado, because we know that, you know, it's hard to imagine what redesign can be until you go somewhere and you see it. And eventually, the Mercury schools will be those places, and Gemini schools, but to even get started, sometimes it just helps to get out of what you currently know and see something completely different. So yeah, we're working like crazy to try to bring more of those professional development opportunities, because we know that there's a huge need. So right now I'll open it up for questions from anyone that's on. Keep in mind, Kennedy folks, that this group tends to be pretty quiet, so they may or may not ask any questions. So we'll open it up and we'll watch the chat for here for a minute or so. Love that wait time, don't you?
Where are the other schools located? Because we don't know that we don't see anybody else.
So I can jump in on that, Tammy. We've got on the line, and we've got 21 districts that are in the Gemini project, but obviously Good Friday is probably not the best day for a Gemini Zoom meeting. We've got Rolla, Newton, Ottawa, Leavenworth, I know I'm missing some people that are on, but we've got a handful of schools on today.
I was just curious the size of some of the districts, if they were comparable to Wellington.
Yeah, I think in the Gemini project, we have some schools that are virtually the same size, but we've got larger districts, smaller districts. So it's a good mix.
There is a question in the chat. It says, have you had much discussion on how special ed will fit into your Summit Learning platform?
Yes. I think there will be a lot of the kind of push-in model where the special ed teachers and paras will be utilized more in the classroom, which is currently how we, for the most part, are using them. But I think that will even become more evident with the Summit Learning. I think there will be some opportunities for our special ed teachers to do some adaptions for those students. The platform is written on grade level, so we know that there are students that are not going to be reading on grade level when they are working on that platform. So those special ed teachers and paras will need to, do some legwork ahead of time and do some help with adaptions and helping students through that process.
Another question in the chat says, I heard that you were doing something with social emotional learning and quote unquote families. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, which families is something that we had done in the past. Both Kathy and I have been here for over 20 years, and we had implemented a family type program, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago. And through changes in administration, that had kind of been put on the back burner and discontinued. But we were glad to bring that back this year. What we've done is we have taken our staff and assigned them a group of students from kindergarten to 5th grade. And currently, once a month, the staff or the teacher and their school family get together and for about an hour, and we do it over the lunch hour. So you eat lunch together, and then we've done some different activities. Sometimes it's related to a holiday. We made Christmas ornaments and some different things like that. And then we also try to tie in our character education with that. So we have a character word of the month, and we try to develop some activities and things where we're able to kind of go a little more in depth with the character education during that time. The primary focus is just that each student has another adult that they can be making a relationship with, that they can go to in addition to their own teacher, and making them into a smaller group setting. I know like at Christmas time and different things like that, the families, kind of the teacher in charge of the family made a special effort to get that student a little candy cane or something, just to let them know that, I'm here for you. I'm part of your team that's supporting you. The students will stay in the family that they're in until they leave Kennedy. And then we just, as we've got new students, or next year when our 5th graders leave and we get new kindergartners in, we'll just kind of replace those students in the families to try to keep them all at an equal number. And it's worked out well. We do some school-wide activities. We did a Christmas Around the World activity. We did a school-wide Olympics activity where they went with their family to different sessions. And it's nice to see the older students helping with the younger students. And I ran into one of the students in my family at Walmart and was talking to the parent, and as they went around the aisle, I heard her say, "That's my school mom." So it's kind of nice that they feel like they have another adult, caring adult in their life here at school. And we feel like that's very important for our students, particularly because we know that many of them come from home lives that do not involve 2 parents in the home, several in foster care or living with a grandparent. We have quite a few kind of truant in and out, moving a lot, migrant kind of students. So just to have that one more caring adult in their life is huge.
So on the chat, I see Kingman is incorporating some learning with a 5-6 combination next year. Newton, their 5-6 center, is also going to use the Summit platform, and Rolla says they're doing Summit with 4th, 5th, 7th, and I have to scroll down, and 9th next year. So definitely, that's going to help facilitate a lot of change for another state. All right, Kennedy, thank you. I know that I kind of twisted your arm to just to do this today, and so I promise to bring you chocolate the next time I see you. With that, thank you so much, and happy Easter.
Thank you.
Over to the high school.
Yeah, so with us today, we're very privileged to have Dr. Daoud, Janet Daoud, on with us this morning, and it's great. I'll have to bring not only chocolate. Janet, do you like chocolate? No yes, chocolate. Dark chocolate. Okay, I'm writing that down. And then I'll bring some dog treats for Charlie. Okay, so Charlie they also have a therapy dog at Wellington High School. There's Charlie.
There's Charlie.
Our first meeting with Charlie, I was able to meet with Dr. Daoud and John Buckendorf, their principal. They had Charlie, and Charlie was sleeping on the desk, on John's office desk, and he fell off. And we thought that we had damaged Charlie beyond repair, but he's made a great comeback, and he's part of the redesign process. So, but big thanks to Janet for jumping on with us this morning on a day off, as many of you might be on a day off. So thank you so much for joining in. So Janet, if you could introduce yourself, and I think to kind of kick things off with the redesign is just talk through your vision, the vision that Wellington High School has for redesign.
Okay. Yes, I'm Janet Daoud, and assistant principal here at Wellington High School. And this is my first year at Wellington, but I kind of jumped on board at the end of May and just kind of joined in with them through this whole process. So it has been amazing, starting from all the, surveying community members, teachers, doing all of that kind of building steps first, getting everybody involved, talking about, hey, we want to look at things differently. We did a lot of different panel discussions, focus groups. Some of the panel discussions started at the beginning of the school year, where we had the community members come, and they were in our big auditorium, and we had teachers come in and listen as community members as well. But the different business professionals, we asked them questions about, what are you looking for, when you have a graduate, and what is lacking? What do we need, not only for this community, but for our students once they graduate high school to be successful wherever they would go? And those big things obviously were those soft skills, really those 4 C's, that creativity, collaborate, communication, that innovative thinking, problem solving. I think the big thing that they kept saying over and over was that grit, and being able to not just complete a task, but okay, what do I need to do next? Or if they were assigned a task to do and something just was off, didn't seem right, instead of just doing it, going ahead and questioning it, hey, was this looks like there's an error here, or hey, what about this? This might be a different way we could look at it. I'll do it this way, but what about this? So not just being like a robot, actually thinking and being an active part of the business. And from those discussions, that's kind of how we got to our 4-prong attack. I think you can kind of see it here. Screen down a little bit. And so this really is what we're focusing on. And so we have the personalized learning over here. And that is where, for next year, students, some of the students, mainly our freshmen and sophomores, will have an opportunity. So when they enroll in classes, and they're all working on enrolling right now, as they're enrolling in classes, they'll elective classes are going to be the same as they've always been. So if they have band first hour, they'll still have band first hour. Maybe they have art third hour. Maybe they have, you know, their PE class at the end of the day. And so they're still going to go to those classes during those times. But if they're wanting to do that more personalized learning, then during their math, science, social studies, and English, they'll be in an area. It's going to be our media center area and some of the classrooms surrounding it. And they'll be in that area for those classes, and they'll be using a digital platform. We were also accepted with the Summit. We're still looking at it as well as others, so we're going to keep moving forward with that, but we're still looking to see what's going to be best for the high school. But that allows them during those hours that would normally be their math, science, social studies, and English, that they can work on those subjects during the hour and do some of the projects that will be going on during that hour, because we're going to do project-based instruction, which is another area. Oh, we just lost the screen here. Let me try that again. But the other piece that is nice is that there's going to be that flexibility. So maybe one day, instead of working on the math, they're going to do 2 different times that they're going to be working on the English. Or maybe they have a big project with English, so they're going to be working on English individually, but then they're also going to be doing some type of collaborative project. Maybe that project is something that a group of the students are working on with our broadcast. You know, so while we don't have an official broadcast class, that is something that our school and community said we would love to get more of that going. And so that's that other piece. I'm going to see if we can get this pulled back up so I can show that again. But out of the 4 prongs, that's the other piece that's really important, is those projects and the community engagement. And so those are going to be some important pieces as well. So I'll pull that up in a second, but I'll just kind of keep talking about it. So some of the project could be that they're working on writing up some things that's going to be sharing maybe a news bulletin every week about what's going on in the class. And so they're going to be using things from technology. They're going to be incorporating things with maybe their public speaking class. So that might be elective, that might be a college credit class. So a lot of things are going to tie together. And that's a neat thing about during those 4 core times. Some days, again, they may be working a lot on one subject over the others, but then other days, maybe another day they're doing some type of project based, working with maybe one of our tech businesses locally, and it's going to be tying in with their science. Maybe something with physical science with pulleys and weights and something. They're going to be working with Triumph or one of our tech industries. They may give them a problem. And so that they may spend some more time on that. I know the question that often comes up is, okay, so how are they going to get their content accomplished if they're out doing all these other projects? That's the other key piece, is that we're going to have mentoring, and that every student is going to have a mentor. We actually already have every student in our school having a mentor right now. So we have 8 periods in the day. Our 3rd hour class is called Crusader Connect. And for that 45 minutes every day, they are with a teacher. That teacher they stay with from their freshman year clear through their senior year. And different days of the week have different focuses. So on Monday, they mainly are doing grade checks and kind of looking to see how they're doing. So this isn't going to change a whole lot in the redesign. But the redesign, not only are they're going to be checking the grades on their what we call brick and mortar classes, those elective classes, or CTE classes, or maybe college classes, but also they're going to be able to get onto whatever platform we're using, that digital platform, and be able to check where they're at. For some of our juniors and seniors, they're still, our teachers are still wanting them to kind of go at their own pace. So if a teacher has a pre-test and a student like aces it, they're obviously not going to make them go through the same processes of activities and lessons that others in the class are. So they would probably look at altering it and doing some different things. We actually piloted that this year in one of our social studies classes. And sometimes the question comes up, well, I'm already doing lesson plans. That's a lot of extra work for me as a teacher. Well, that's why we throw it back on the student. And when we piloted this, the teacher actually had the parent and the student come in and said, look, you know, you did so well in this pretest for our, you know, this whole semester class. There was only one area that you scored lower in, and it happened to be, let's say, for example, Chinese history or something like that. Well, if that was the case, then they work with the students, say, okay, what alternate activities and assignments or, you know, things would you like to do to go deeper and learn more, have some enrichment while we're covering things that you've already mastered. But during the 2 weeks, 3 weeks that we're covering the Chinese history, I want you back with the group and doing all the same thing. So there's some different flexibility. And I think the key there is making sure the parent and the student are together in it. And the student was the one that had to come up with what they were going to do for the enrichment. Now the teacher was there to kind of help and guide them, but again, it was on the student. And they were ready and excited about it because, hey, I can do something else instead of sitting in a class listening to things I already know about. So that kind of going back to the Crusader Connect, other days of the week, we're hitting our career cruising and all of our character activities. So we do 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And so they're hitting on that some days. And then other days they're doing things with career cruising, working on different soft skills. And then they do have some visitation time, like the last 20 minutes where they can go visit teachers for help. And we really see that in the future. That'll be more time that they do some more projects, different things like that. We have a service day coming up in 2 weeks where our entire school is out doing service projects throughout the town. And so some of that planning happens during that time as well. So, you know, back to the redesign for next year, every student is still going to have that mentoring teacher, and they will be able to help make sure they're on track. And so if a student's starting to get off track, then they may say, you know what, during the second hour, you know, we've let you be flexible and you can either work on English or social studies, but we've noticed you're not staying on track with math. Let's have you during that time for the next week, during that time, make sure and work on math and do it in, you know, this setting where that math teacher is at. Every day, all of the core teachers, even though there's that digital platform, they're all going to be teaching a little mini lesson, maybe 15, 20-minute lesson. So those students going at what I would say the minimum, and the minimum pace is what they need to do to earn their credits by the end of the school year. So there is a minimum that we're going to keep them all moving toward, but others may advance and move at a faster pace, which might open opportunities for them to maybe the second semester take an additional elective, or it may allow them the opportunity to do an additional like project-based activity with another group that they weren't already in. I know one of the questions that came up was how do we make sure we're helping with special ed, and also with our school, we're heavy into the MTSS. It works perfect. Right now, some of our students have to lose an elective to be in a tier 2 or tier 3 math or reading support class. Well, next year, the great thing about that is for some of those students, we would just pull them during those 4 different core times, because again, they can work at their own rate and pace and speed. And so we can pull them for a little bit of time, work on whatever the math or reading intervention is that they need to work on during that time, and then not lose one of their electives. Because again, the digital platform they can work on at home as well. We are piloting that some, as far as we do have a different platform that some of our classrooms are using. Some of our math uses Alex, some of them use some other ones to kind of help them. And they'll go back and forth. They'll use it for a while, and then maybe they get to a unit that the kids are like, we don't get what they're trying to explain through the digital. And so the teacher says, okay, we're doing a lesson and everybody's going to join in. And then you go back to that more traditional where, okay, let's talk about it, pair and share. Okay, if you think you have it, now teach your partner, here's a new problem. So I think that's what's really neat. It's all the best teaching getting to do all the time. Teachers won't be spending as much time worrying about, you know, excusing a student to leave to go to the restroom for a minute, you know, worrying about, oh, you're 5 minutes tardy to a class. You know, some of those management that take away the passion and what we really want to use our time doing.
So Janet, that's wonderful. Could you talk through those 4 prongs? So you had personalized learning, right?
Yes. And let me pull those back up again. Just give me a second. I can pull it up.
Was it project-based learning was another one?
Yes. Let me.
And I think you also had one of those prongs was something about
It's the service, and that's going to be where we're going to do the internship and job shadowing. And for our first year, that's going to be more toward our seniors, juniors and seniors, but it will be for everyone. But like I said, just to kind of start out, it's going to be more juniors and seniors because they're kind of ready for that.
And then was it mentoring was your 4th prong, or was it something else?
Yeah, let me try to.
There's a request to, it says, could you share that 4-prong graphic on the Padlet? So if
Yeah, and we actually have it on our Google community, and so when I pull this up, they can actually click on the QRL and it'll take them to the Google community. So let me pull that up.
It's a really nice graphic. I know that they used it during Wellington High School. Used it during the Mercury presentations. Had a lot of requests for it. So that'd be great, Janet, if it could make it onto the Padlet. What I love about what you said is, a lot of the prongs. Nothing academically has really been mentioned. It's the mentoring. It's the social emotional learning. It's the work-based learning experiences. So when you bring all those 4 together, what's the 4th one there?
Yeah, so it's project-based learning. It's the personalized learning. It's the civic engagement. So the civic engagement, and that is where that civic engagement is going to happen all over. The example I shared, I think, at the Kansas Can was that we could have where we have morning announcements, and that can be a combination of students working with a local broadcasting business to help us get that out because we don't have a broadcasting class. And then, we could be working with the English department on different things. We can be working with a graphic design. I mean, so there's so many different ways, because not only would they want to get that news out like over an intercom or a little video, they would probably want to be able to tweet it out. They'd want to be able to have it streaming maybe on some of our different TV screens throughout the school. So they would be using that technology, but they may also want to put it in the local paper. So then, they would work with English and how do you write something up so it's ready to be published in a professional setting? Do you use MLA? Do you use APA? Help them learn all the different professional sides of it. And so that could be definitely tied in with civic engagement, because we could talk with local businesses to help us with that. How do you get news out? You could be working with a local graphic design group. You could be working with a broadcasting group, a newspaper. So, and that's just for that one thing. If we're wanting to work on landscaping for the school, if we're wanting to work on lots of other things, then we would get with the different businesses to help us on some of those projects. So that's where that civic engagement. For some of the juniors and seniors, they may actually be either job shadowing or doing an internship with that business, which would be cool because so as a freshman, sophomore, you may be doing a small little project that if you really like that, go, wow, I think this is something I could do as a career. By your junior, senior year, that could be one of your electives or a double block elective where you're going out into that business and interning. We also would like the opportunity for some of these businesses to maybe spend a week or a month at our school. So maybe one of our empty classrooms, we would invite them to come in, like a floral shop or thinking of Charlie, a pet grooming, or graphic design, something that they could bring some of their resources in and actually do some of their business from our location, and our kids can come in and work for them for free and learn some experiences, and then it's just be a great way to tie things in together. Plus, if we have some local people come into the side classroom or whatever to do their business with that business, what a great way to let them see our school and all the neat things we're doing. So that's some of that civic engagement. And then we do have Cali County College, which it's the Sumner branch is right next to our school. And so starting in the fall, they will have their CTE program up and ready. The building's looking great already. I know they're working on the inside part of it. And so our students can have an opportunity to go over there for those classes if they're juniors and seniors. And then the following year, they're what they call their short building, which will be all their like core classes.
It's coffee though.
So students will be able to take classes, college classes still on our school campus, but maybe the hour we offer it doesn't fit in their schedule, then they could go over to the college as well. So it's not like we're going to do away with CTE classes or our dual credit college classes. We're just going to maybe have more opportunities and different types of classes that they can take. And I know that I think we have several different examples of that.
So Janet, one thing, all those 4 prongs, they're all built towards your vision. Could you take the group through your vision statement? Because I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, so our we have here our focus, and it is just that students are going to have time to deeply explore strengths and passions within authentic experience-driven learning environment. The students are going to find confidence, relevance, and agency in their own work as a result of caring relationships that they have with staff and personalized nature of their learning. Students are going to be equipped with the success skills and tools necessary to become architects of a better world. And that's just part of it. The other goal that we have is that by, I think we made it the 2025, that way our freshmen as they graduate, but our goal is that 100% of our students will graduate with either industry certification, which could be through Cali College, or they may already be close to or have earned an associate's degree. We added on there too that it's whatever their plan of study is. So for example, if their plan of study is military, or they're going to do mission work with like Peace Corps or something like that, that still means that counts toward our 100%, because we realize that for some students, they may have several credits toward an associate's, or they may have 1 or 2 different industrial certifications. They still may not go on into the job world doing that. And they may go straight into the military, or they're going to do something with Peace Corps, or maybe they're going to go ahead and take over their family's business, because there are several students that their families have some pretty good businesses that now they're going to already have a lot of training by the time they graduate. And so they may not go on to a 4-year college. They may go straight into the business world. So our goal is that 100% of our students will have met their individual plan of study. And that individual plan of study is something we do through career cruising. And it usually lists the top 3, because I think that's always smart. All of us, we should all be thinking, you know, as students are learning, they're going to have their very first goal, but they should have some backup ones. So the student may be starting out. We have student-led conferences. That's part of our Crusader Connect. And the last one I set in just a couple weeks ago, students only had 1 class left to finish his that CNA class, so that first level of nursing. And he's like, I really want to do that, even though he's interested in going to, I think, architecture. And so his parents are like, well, why are you going to finish that if that's not what you think you're going to go into? He's like, yes, but it's just 1 hour out of my day. It's going to be one of my electives. I want to do that, because that way I can start working with that and I'll get paid more than minimum wage. So I think a lot of students are realizing, even if I get a certification, it may not be part of my long-term goal. So when you have that plan of study, his first one's going to be architecture, but maybe the second one is, you know, nursing, because he can still do that nursing what he's got trained for as his job as he continues going to college. Think about how awesome that is. Some of our students, going to college is hard enough and challenging enough, and if you're just trying to do a minimum wage job on the side of that, that makes it really difficult. And if they could be doing a job, whether it's one of the CT classes or just having their Microsoft engineering or their Microsoft, their different certifications, they're going to get more than just a minimum wage job. And so we think that's awesome.
So Janet, could you talk a little bit, because we have several district office or administrators on the call this morning. Could you talk through any advice that you would have in leading a group, empowering your teachers to make sure this is teacher-led at a redesign effort? How that, just some words of wisdom towards that?
Yes, definitely the important part. And the unique thing that I'll have is that while I've helped be the process with this, I'll also be now going through this process all over again at the middle school, which will be wonderful, because as those students from Kennedy 2 years out will be in the middle school, we want to make sure that that redesign is seamless going through our whole district. And so, that's going to be one of the first things that I do is I visit with teachers. I want to make sure that we meet in some small group settings and just throw out all the questions that they have. Talk about what is it that you really want to help students be able to achieve. Talk about what our community is looking for. And so I think that's what Dr. Whitener has done an amazing job. Even before I came on board this year, last year, he was already doing that. He was going out and talking in small groups. He would go talk to the different businesses when they have their meetings, which could be their, I'm going blank on the word, but I know he met with like the Knights of the Columbus and like the Lions Club and the Rotary groups. And then he would meet with some of the other, like the city council, the different organizations that meet. And there's some different Sumner County work coalition groups and things like that. So he would meet with them and say, what do you want our students to be able to achieve? And then bring that back to the teachers and go, what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel like you're doing a great job with this? What are things you feel like are hindering you from helping the students be where they need to be? And letting those teachers really drive some of those discussions. So as we're moving forward in some of this, our teachers keep asking great questions. For example, some of them are asking, how is this project-based part going to work? Because some of them have been piloting it throughout the years. I mean, project-based learning is not a new concept. And some of the teachers go, we've been doing that. But sometimes we have a few students that are like, come on, just give me the worksheet and do your lecture. And that's less work for the student than actually being engaged on a project and not having all the answers that they can just spit right out, that they actually have to analyze and figure out things. And so we talked about that we're going to have to work on that paradigm shift for our students as well, that sometimes they're not going to get the sit and get, and that it's going to be one of those things where we throw a problem at them. For example, one of our chemistry teachers had a problem. I got to walk in her class and she had a problem. Say that the local dentist is wanting to find out what types of acids really decay that enamel in your teeth a lot. And so her question with the students were, we need to help this dentist be able to share out with his patients what types of acidities are really dangerous for enamel of teeth, and what maybe foods and different things would have those high acidities, so he can have a little pamphlet or something to share back with his patients. So the students had to work on that. And so a few different days, they're not only researching it online, then they're actually getting out some of those, sodas and lime juice and, those different things that are acidic, and testing it, through the chemistry testing, well, which one would be causing the most damage on teeth enamel and things like that. And then kind of writing up a report with graphs and charts that they could send back into the dentist. And teacher admitted, a few students are like, come on, can I just do the questions at the end of the chapter? And, and so this is that paradigm shift that the teachers are well aware will be a little challenging for students. And so I think the key, and what's been a key for us, is we have one Wednesday out of the month, out of the week. So every Wednesday we meet with our staff. And not every Wednesday do we talk about these problems or challenges we have, because we have other things we talk about, but I would say definitely at least once a month. And we're going to spend a lot of time here toward the end of the school year where those Wednesdays are going to be for the teachers to collaborate, to brainstorm and talk about that. How do we not only feel comfortable as teachers to allow students to struggle and go through that learning pit, because that's where those great soft skills really manifest, and they really learn so much from it. But also how to help the students feel comfortable with that, because it's a comfort level for both teachers and students.
Yeah, that's a great point. So what I heard you say was that you're having more authentic and collaborative conversations with staff and getting their authentic feedback through that. And you've increased the time that teachers have to collaborate. You've got 1 day a week, which was a huge move. And you also said something I think that's really profound, in that, you know, students oftentimes, at least I know from, you know, hearing you guys talk about it, some of your students don't necessarily see that project-based learning is the right move for them because it is harder work. But yet I know that you've all taken the attitude that you're just going to support your students through that, but not let them out, you know, and let them out of that learning pit of you know, of an experience. So I think that's a great attitude to take. Well, I think we're kind of coming close to the end of our time here, and Dr. Daoud, we really appreciate you taking some time again on an off day to share with our Gemini schools. Does anybody have any questions, either through the chat or unmute and ask? We have some just some, as Janet talked through their vision and their four-pronged attack to redesign and how they're bringing staff along. Any questions that might have popped up? Well, Janet, I think that's success. You've answered all their questions without having to actually answer any questions. So that's awesome. I really appreciate your time, and Kennedy Elementary, thank you so much for taking some time and joining us here today. You know, Tammy and I have loved our work there in Wellington, and it's just been a really fun experience. So thanks for sharing your stories here today.
Well, thank you for having us.
You bet. So I think we'll move on to just some general announcements, and I can kick us off, and then Tammy, just jump in whenever you want. But I do know that upcoming in April, you know, we are basically taking the month of April to come out and visit our Gemini schools. So we're really excited about that, and we can't wait to get on the road. We start next week, and basically the purpose of those visits is to just have our Gemini schools tell their story of redesign this year, wherever they are. And it's also a time for us to collaboratively, and Tammy and I and Brad Newenswander will be making those visits, is just to collaboratively talk about, are you ready to launch in the fall of this year, or would you rather have another year to plan and develop, maybe some further support from us before you launch in August of 2019. So we'll be talking through schools with, do you have a redesign team? What's your shared vision? How is that developed? Do you have investigation teams that can run down the research that's out there? What prototypes have you piloted for redesign? Maybe it's something you've already been doing and you're scaling it up. What's gone well this year? And then we'll kind of culminate our visit with, will you be able to launch in the fall of 2018? And so we're really excited to get out in April. I know our Mercury schools are probably excited that we won't be visiting them in April, give them a break. But I know in April that the Mercury schools will be putting their plans together. So, and that's been some exciting developments there.
Yeah, Jay, and I would just like to add that, you know, during these Gemini visits, it's a conversation. Don't spend time building some PowerPoint or thinking it has to be some kind of dog and pony show, because we just want to come and see you at your district and hear about the great things that you're doing and find out how we can support you better.
Awesome.
So we have secured a week for your calendars if you're a summit partner, because the week of June 25th will be when that Kansas Summit training takes place. We're working on securing a location because Summit, they're so generous and they cover all of this cost. They'll be making those reservations, but we've recommended 3 or 4 different locations around the state. We may also have schools from Missouri that join that training too. So block off the days and then we'll let you know, or you'll know soon as to the location for that.
Amy, could I jump in on that? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to travel to Siloam. I used to say it wrong. I used to say Siloam Springs, but it's Siloam Springs, Arkansas, yesterday to their high school. And they are in year 1 of implementing Summit Learning at the high school. And so, I think even though it's the high school, their story would apply to all levels of education. So if you're looking for a look in at a school that is 1 year in with Summit implementation, Siloam would be a great visit. And one of the things that I'll send out a summary of our visit, but one of the things that stuck with me was they didn't say they were going to become a Summit school. They just simply said to their parents and their community and their students and their teachers that they're looking at building a digital, not building, but accessing curriculum digitally. They didn't say we're going to use the Summit platform or we're going to be a Summit school. They said we're going to have a way for our students to access curriculum digitally. There's going to be personalized learning time. There's going to be project-based learning going on. So they really kind of broadened the scope of what they were doing and didn't generally say we're going with Summit. And I thought that was a good move. They call it blended learning. So the students and the staff had the option this year, if they wanted to, of the traditional core classroom or a blended learning classroom. And they've got a wonderful story this year, both from their teachers and their students involved in the blended learning using Summit as their program. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then the last announcement that Tammy and I have is, and you may have seen this come across through email. I know if you read everything that comes from the state via email, hint, hint. Anyway, that was a joke. But you may have heard of the Kansas College and Career Competency Framework. It's a wheel. It's got a bunch of competencies on it. That's the name of the framework. It's the Kansas College and Career Competency Framework. Amy and Patty, they have developed that at KU, and in partnership with us, we are rolling that out. It's really a social, emotional, and employability framework. And so the training dates for this summer were sent out earlier this week. Those are free trainings. And so the only reason we say this is because a lot of our schools, virtually all the Mercury schools, have a social emotional goal area focus with their redesign. And a lot of times, when you make a switch to a different focus, it's hard to know what's out there to research. And so this is one program that's within the state of Kansas that our schools have access to. And so there's some trainings on that this summer. So if you're looking for social emotional learning, those kinds of things, that would be a good option. So stay tuned for that. I think those trainings have already filled up, which in the matter of about a day and a half. So they're going to be looking for other opportunities for training this summer and then even into the fall. So are there any questions? And I see that Dr. Daoud has shared their presentation information, 4-prong plan, their Google community, which is a great feedback tool, on the chat. So thank you very much. And with that, does anybody have any questions over any of the presentations today or the Gemini visits upcoming, summit training, the college and career ready competency framework? All right, it's right at 11:30, so it's perfect timing. I'll go ahead and we'll just sign off for the day. And thank you so much for joining us again on a Good Friday. I hope you have a really great Good Friday, and we'll see everybody soon. Take care, everybody.